We have different perspectives in different stages of life. We might be 5 years old or 20 years old, 40 or 80 and 100 and beyond. We see life from a lens of what we should be doing at one particular stage of life. Maybe when we are 50 years old, we want to see our life as all settled, money in our bank account, and we are looking at our retirement. Maybe when we are 20 years old, we are looking at making our career. So where I'm coming at is that no matter what life stages we are, one thing that would never change is the child sitting inside us. We can be under 20 years old. I wish I am, and you are if you're listening, with all no illnesses and pains. But the child that is inside us will always stay alive. And this podcast today is all about that child inside us that keeps us alive and energetic. And I'm talking about a brand that has kept this alive, that has been blowing fire literally in different stages that it has been, but it continues to be still equally young, still equally destructive, and still equally immersive. I'm talking about Mattel Hot Wheels. Before I take my Hot Wheels to a different direction, let's dive into today's podcast. So Hot Wheels came into life in 1968. It was not because there were no brands that were not making toy cars. They were already iconic brands back then. Brands like Corgi Toys, Dinky, and Matchbox. They were doing exceptional job, so much so that their cars were so perfect that you could actually keep it in a museum or keep it on a shelf, but you won't play with it. So this is what the co-founder of Mattel identified. I'm talking about Elliot Handler, who's one of the co-founders and also the person whose first two alphabets of the name are in the brand name Mattel. The first part, Matt, comes from the other co-founder whose nickname was Matt. So together, Mattel. So coming on to why Elliot came out with Hot Wheels was that, as I mentioned, that these brands, they were doing too perfect a job. They lacked some sort of fun element. I wouldn't say imagination, because imagination is quite subjective in that way. And they were doing such a meticulous job anyway. But people want to play with cars. And I'm specifically saying here people because people includes adults and it also includes children. So for the lack of the better word, I'm saying people here. But children wanted to play with their toy cars and adults wanted to have not just something for the collection, but also wanted to live out their childhood. So the child, that element of fun was missing at that time, and this is what Hot Wheels addressed. Now, these guys got the Southern California's fever into the Hot Wheels. I'm talking about the hot rod culture. The hot rod culture is all about these open engines, engine blowers on the top of the car. Or if you have seen Fast and Furious movies, parts of the series actually show cars being customized, built for those racings that the movies show fantabulously. Also, if you are a Batman fan, then Batmobile is an example of it. Now, Robert Pattinson's recent Batman movie was all in talks about the Batmobile that he was driving. And why so much in talk? Because of this customization that the car had. So hot rod culture is all about this classic cars, the old cars that you use, and you customize them to make them modern. Not just modern in a tech-savvy way, but in a garage-style way. You make them larger than life, you make them so awesome. The sound of it, even while I'm saying this to you, you can listen that room that falls into your ears. So this is what the Hot Wheels phenomenon was. It brought the hot rod culture into these toy cars 1/64 scale, those small tiny Hot Wheel cars that you see literally almost in stores that you go on a daily basis, and you at times buy it because it's so cheap. So when in 1968 Hot Wheels came out with its first collection, it was called the Sweet 16. It was loud, it was aggressive, and it was so stylish. And when I say fast, when I say aggressive, I mean the axle system in those toy cars. They were so fast, there was less friction, which lacked in the previous toy car brands that were already present at that time, the ones I just mentioned. Next, it was all about scaling Hot Wheels. So if you recall the bright orange tracks, the stunt models, the limited edition cars that it comes out with, or the loop-the-loops, the roller coaster, all these are part of Hot Wheels ecosystem, as you would say. Nothing of the other brands would work that smoothly and that fast on the orange racing track. So you need to have the Hot Wheels cars running on them. About 22.5 Hot Wheels get produced every second, or about 779 million of them every year. Their revenue in 2023 grew about 14% and in 2024 about 10%. So from 1.4 billion to about 1.6 billion in 23 and 24. Taking a slight segue into some of the awesome initiatives that Hot Wheels has done and that has contributed into that huge revenue that they have amassed. The first one on my list is the Hot Wheels Legend Store. Hot Wheels Legend Store started in 2018 to celebrate 50 years of Hot Wheels. Now, with this, their objective is to find out one winning 1x64 model coming from a real-life replica of someone who custom builds cars and is part of the competition. So the whole objective is to find local heroes from different countries and eventually announce one winner whose model will become a die-cast 1x64 scale which will be sold across the world. How great an opportunity it is for someone who is into this area, or even for someone who is a rookie as well and wants to get into this ecosystem. It's such a massive penetration opportunity and it's so exciting, something unheard of. The second one I want to share with you is the double loop-the-loops that they did with the X Games in 2012, where they actually made a live replica of their orange track and had two drivers doing that loop successfully. Imagine this now, people who were present at that particular point of time looking at this stunt, which actually shook people off. Because one, it is something that is very difficult to imagine, such a difficult ask. You can do it on a racing track at your home, but doing that in real life required a different imagination and engineering. And for Hot Wheels lovers, it was their wish that came true. The third initiative that I want to share with you is their penetration into gaming. In 2021, they came out with Hot Wheels Unleashed. Hot Wheels Unleashed sold over 1 million copies in a few months' time from its launch. The opportunity to cascade and penetrate into different segments through this particular initiative is something that brands of today should learn. And their partnerships just don't stop here. Their partnerships with OEM brands like Nissan, Porsche, McLaren just shows that their thinking capabilities are not just restricted towards toys and games. It is connecting the real world out there with something that you can control with your hands and can enjoy that freedom, that imaginative freedom. Something that in 1968 when they came out with, they have kept that original thinking still true. Some of you might say that it's a natural connection, right? But think about these brands like Bugatti, Porsche and McLaren. They're so finicky about their brands. In general, they treat them as fortress. They work with Hot Wheels and very comfortably, with all respect. Generally, you can't touch these brands if you're talking about their brand architecture, but they let Hot Wheels do this. This speaks volumes about what Hot Wheels has become. Let me share another example. You have heard me talking about Tesla and how Tesla hasn't really come out with the commercial and advertisements in general. But think about Tesla partnering with Mattel Hot Wheels. How is that? When Cybertruck and Roadster was going to come out, even before the release, they actually let Hot Wheels do replicas of these two models. Now normally Tesla wouldn't do this, but they let Hot Wheels do this for them. Where I'm coming at is to make you think and wonder where the brand started and where it has come today. It doesn't just stop here as well. They are into partnerships with streetwear brands. One of their recent partnerships with a streetwear brand, Behaviour, is an example of that. Now with Behaviour, they have come out with a clothing range that celebrates racing, performance, imagination and style in a very different league. People love such collaborations. They can see Hot Wheels in different contexts. From a brand's perspective, in this case Behaviour, they show what they think. Today's times are all about making people visualize and feel something. And when you are able to make your customers and consumers feel something in a different light, then you have entered into the pedigree of Hot Wheels. That is why it is so successful. So much so that Gucci has also partnered with Hot Wheels to celebrate its 70s and 80s Cadillac Savio. You see, even aspirational brands don't deter to work with Hot Wheels. A small toy car which is just available for $1, thinking about these possibilities for brands of today is probably not doable. But here are a few things that I want you to take away from it. The first one I want to talk about is affordability. When you are trying to enter a market, you don't enter your market with just product. Now, all I've shared with you about partnerships, about how Hot Wheels address the hot rod culture, is nothing about specs, it's nothing about the functional aspect of the product. It is all about everything around. So affordability is not just a term connected with price. It is about how you want your product, your brand to be projected in the minds of consumers. So just don't think affordability just means price. It's an opportunity to, yes, be in the pockets of different and a lot of people, but if you're smart with it, then you can do something what Hot Wheels has done. Even today, they come out with $1 cars, but the limited editions can be more than that. In fact, some of their cars in the collector's market sell for hundreds of dollars. Think about Nissan Skyline GTR R34. That's a very good example of how the collector's market works and how the demand and supply functions in this environment. So affordability is not just about price. Second, I want to talk about is chase. Now, coming out with this limited edition, yes, it creates scarcity. It is not just intended for children. Limited editions have a higher price point because they come in a limited quantity. They create that inertia and that demand and supply pull that justifying it with a slightly higher price is probably okay. And in the collector's market, as I was giving you the Nissan Skyline's example, you can think about that chase, how much that goes beyond just producing these limited runs. Even if you look at other bigger brands like Rolex, limited edition is a huge market. So think about chase, how you can make your customers chase you, not at the point of purchase, but also about the impact it can have in the long run. Have a strategy and experiment built around that. The third one I want to talk about here is the generational loop. Now in Hot Wheels case, I believe this is the most successful mantra that they have cracked. What I mean with this is that when Hot Wheels comes out, it caters to a child first. You grow, then you grow older, you pass the passion of the brand to younger generation. That is why Hot Wheels is an evergreen brand and the market is so much full of potential that it's still growing. So think from a fandom's perspective. Think from cross-industry collaborations perspective. The possibilities all these things can create for your brand. But for all that to happen, you have to try different things. And you never know, the brand you're working on might be the next Hot Wheels of a different category, or even if within the toy car category if you are. I hope you enjoyed today's podcast. My name is Rachit Kapoor and you have been listening to The Marketing Guy. Before I see you in the next episode, I want you to take very good care of yourself.